And it is Saturday. Welcome to the Krueger Show, brought to you by Piggin' Up Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Piggin' Up Pickle, the best barbecue you're going to find. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030, as well as Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And, of course, we are also brought to you by Sharp Corners, sports cards, and collectibles. If you're a collectible fan, go check them out. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, down in Monterey. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. And thanks to all of our sponsors for sponsoring The Krueger Show, which is up over 40,000 subs, over 1 million views per month. And this is one of our most popular shows, Saturday with the coach, and the coach is in the house. It is 9:39 West Coast. That means it's 39 minutes after noon in the East where the coach joins us. Coach, how are you, man?
What's going on, Larry? How are you, man? What's going on? Feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. You got the tournament rolling. You got baseball rolling. You got the draft about a month away. There's never a shortage of things to talk about. And I entitled the stream, "It's Now or Never" for these 49ers. So I'm going to give you 15 or so 49ers. And you tell me, we know it's now or never, but is it going to be now or is it going to be never? You know what I'm saying?
I know what you said. I'm picking up what you're putting down, baby. Pick it up. You know
what I'm saying?
Here we
go. We'll start with the receiver group.
Okay.
Is it going to be now or is it going to be never for Danny Gray?
Never.
Never.
And I hate to put it that way, but I don't see it happening. He's been here for quite some time. Kyle is especially harder on the receiver position because that's exactly what he played before he started coaching. Case in point, Brandon Aiyuk himself has had a bumpy road to understand and how to get better under being coached by Kyle Shanahan, particularly in this offense. And really, as far as the offense is concerned, I feel like our team is different with rookies or trying guys out on different sides of the ball. On our side of the ball, on defense, you'll see a young Dre Greenlaw get shots. You'll see a Samuel Womack get shots. You'll see Darrell Luter Jr. get shots. Huff played early. We saw Drake Jackson get his time early, right? We saw Diamador Lenore. He got his time early. And in a way, they got time on task. Really doesn't happen a lot on the offensive side of the ball. Kyle is all about consistency. He's all about trust. And if you're young, there's only one way that you're getting on the field playing offense for Kyle Shanahan, is that you absolutely have some type of skill set that could be consistent and how he can use you on a daily basis. Or there's a pandemic, you get drafted in the first round, and then you're Brandon Aiyuk. Outside of that, you're done for. You're done for.
I would probably say never for Danny Gray as well. And it's nothing that you guys have seen. It's what I've seen. And that is when he's kind of walking around the room, he's got this kind of defeated look on his face, right? He's got this kind of, even though I'm talented and I'm fast and I'm athletic, I'm worlds away from contributing. You know what I mean? He's got that kind of look on his face when he walks around. So I'll say never for Danny Gray. All right, let's go to Tay Martin. Big play Tay. Started at Wazoo, finished at Oak State. More of a possession receiver, but he's a guy with good hands and good size and has some talent. Now or never for Tay?
Now. He's on the team right now for $795,000. All right. That's kind of bottom of the barrel, right? He takes up not even half of a percent for the overall salary cap. But I love his skill set. And one of the reasons why I'm saying now for Tay Martin is that even though he hasn't given us a lot of on-field production as far as the season is concerned,
right?
Martin has gotten better. I really pay attention. This is really one of the best parts of the offseason. It's right after the draft, and you get all of the rookies in, right? And they've already kind of worked as hard as they've ever worked in their lives, right? Because they've been preparing for the draft. But what you always get to see is that rookie mini camp and those OTAs where those guys that they finally get a little bit of the spotlight, they start popping up. Your Ronnie Bells, your Tay Martins, your Danny Grays, right? Your Drake Jacksons, all of these guys that we had to put on the shelf because we had to start a season. Now we get to prove it. Now this is your Super Bowl. You get to show what you've been doing for an entire season. How did you get better? What'd you do this offseason? And I say now for Tay because I remember, particularly from your reports, Larry, about how impressive Tay Martin looked from the last year that we had him. He was bigger, more defined, more athletic, getting in and out of his breaks. And if he packs on more of what he did, I really do see him as somebody that can help us. And then also skill set. We have Juwan for 1 year. So we obviously need another big receiver in his stead if and when we move on from Juwan. So Tay Martin could be a viable spot for us as a big receiver because we don't have a lot of them.
You know, I always say that the receiver position is a complementary position. And because you got to have one guy that can run the shallow, one guy who can run the crossers, one guy who can run the deep routes, you got to have guys that play off one another. If you have 5 good, possession receivers, you're no good. If you got 5 guys who run 4-2, you're probably no good also. So you got to have some complementary receivers. And that being said, you got Debo and you got JJ, and you have some intermediate guys who can move, kind of be the possession guy and kind of move the football. So normally I would say never, but there's something about Tay that says, you know what, the skill set's really good. They haven't really found that game or that preseason game even to kind of show what he's got. I think when he does, he's gonna open some eyes. So I'll say now for Tay Martin. Let's go on to Ronnie Bell. What's Ronnie Bell? Is Ronnie Bell a now or a never? It's hard to say because, times he showed really high level ability, but then at times he shows that physically you can easily separate him from the football with any kind of a timely hit. His hands have not been that consistent. Some of his decision making on special teams as a return man, make you kind of scratch your head. I'm not sure what to say.
Me neither. And ditto for literally everything you said. And that's why I'm having a hard time giving you what I would say right now. He was a pick. I'd say now.
You could go with neither if you want. You could go with never. It's not now, it's not never, but it's neither of those two. Which that could be him.
I would say it's neither. I mean, right now, I already see Ronnie Bell fighting for a spot to be on this team before we even draft anybody right now. And there's a lot of good receivers that fit his skill set in the draft that are actually better than him that we can get later in the draft. My biggest thing with Ronnie Bell is that you can say that he has shown upside, but the problem is that being at his level on our team, meaning like a younger guy around a lot of veterans, he's gotten all the opportunities that you're really going to see in a game, right? He's going to return, he's going to take back punts, he's going to be a gunner, right? And what I've seen is that he just can't show consistency protecting the ball. What's sneaky about Ronnie Bell is that he's going to look really good in preseason because he's a gamer, right? And he's going to play hard and he's going to make plays, but I'm gonna say neither right now. I wouldn't say anything.
I'll say, it's tough because you don't get endless chances in the NFL. That's just it. I liked what I saw last year. I'll project some growth. I'll say now, but I don't feel tremendously confident because, as you said, It's a deep receiver draft. There's all kinds of guys out there that have bigger bodies, faster wheels, and can do a lot of the same things Danny can do or Ronnie can do. So hopefully Ronnie steps it up. All right, let's jump to the O-line. Nick Zakelj.
Mm-hmm.
Is it now or is it never for Brock Purdy's roommate?
Never.
Never.
I mean,
He's going to get cut.
It was good it was a good concept. I understand what they saw in Nick Zakelj, but hey man, the league is not for long. And there are other linemen that are in the same ilk of Nick Zakelj where we got him from that is an upside. And really, I think that this draft is just open season on all linemen like Nick Zakelj. Guys that have the body, they have the untaught God-given ability, and they're working with you to try to get technique because of who you are as just an athlete. But this year in this year's draft, our entire offensive line can get revamped. And I'm not talking about day one picks. We could revamp our entire O-line from center over and the entire back and the entire reserves of our offensive line. We could do that on day 2 and day 3 of this draft if we really wanted to. So guys like Nick Zakelj, they don't notice. You know, like the Matt Pryors of the world, the Nick Zakelj, they're on notice.
I agree. It's one of those things where the Niners could easily say, you know what, the 2024 NFL draft is about our line. And then Brendel and Burford and Feliciano and McKivitz, these guys could be the backups potentially. And then if those guys are the backups, that means the actual backups are probably on the practice squad or cut. So I would say Zakelj, even though I like him, I think he's smart. I think he's tough. I think he could be a replacement for Brendel at center. He may even be an upgrade on Brendel. But I would say never for him. How about Jalen Moore?
Never. It's time. We gave these guys a lot of reps. We're giving these guys a lot of time. The life of a backup offensive lineman is to always be ready and to be pushing to get on the field, really. Offensive line is a position where you either know you have one or you don't, right? And you can't really work an offensive lineman into being a starter. And some of these guys, they are what they are. They're NFL linemen, but they're backups on a team that doesn't prioritize O-line. So that should let you know where their true skill set is in the open market is really. And I'm banging the table for it, man. This draft, we could really solve the offensive line question and the problem, and we could do it at the same level of money that we're doing it now. That's what's advantageous about this. So I'm going to say never on Matt Pryor.
There's no question that there's a lot of good linemen in this draft. I would say I counted about 30 good linemen in this draft, and you're absolutely right. You know, the Niners could go and replace a lot of their veteran linemen with rookie linemen and do this thing so much more cost effectively than they do right now.
Yeah, like round 6, round 5. There's guys out there, undrafted guys. Sorry, Larry.
Spencer Burford. Now or never for Spencer Burford.
Now
for Burford.
It's got to be now.
Yeah,
he didn't finish the whole season. We really didn't. We really haven't seen you finish an entire season. You got better from last year, much better from last year. But even the level of play that you gave us this year, it's just not consistent and it's not enough. The blunders are huge. When you make mistakes, you make big ones. All right. And quite frankly, John Feliciano is earning a living because of your maturation process. Right. So it's got to be now. He's a pick. They see a lot in him. And there's a lot of upside with him where they're going to have to come to a position where do you overpay a guy who in hit for what he's really worth, he's overpaid before the salary cap, it's actually a discount for us. And we really have an imperfect vessel down there because of a fiscal reason. So it's now either he's going to show the upside to earn the type of money that we want to put at that position, or he's going to get shipped out with a guy who really wants to play. So it has to be now for Spencer.
Yeah, no question. This is it right here. It's either you're going to be something or you're not going to be something, and we're going to find out this summer. All right, let's move to some other guys here. Cam Latu, now or never for Cam Latu.
Never. I hate that. And that's my guy. I'm a Bama dude, but that's never. I just don't see it. He's got the body, right? But for right now, we're not even going to talk about the injuries because that's really what saved him, quite honestly, on staying on this team. Is he got designated in AR and IR where he actually got to where he got to actually get better and men and be on the men. So he got the designation. But the facts are is that we need blocking tight ends, but we need tight ends that can catch. He cannot catch, man. He's not consistent at catching the ball. We saw glimpses of him in the offseason, and we saw glimpses of him, and we saw we heard reports of him all throughout camp. I cannot tell you how many reports week after week after week, almost a year ago, where it was Cam Latu dropped this pass, but he turned it on at the end. Cam Latu took a while to get going. He had 2 or 3 drops, but he turned it on at the end. It's if you're not gonna be a consistent pass catcher at the tight end position, then we really can't use you because number one, tight end isn't a position where you necessarily put that many targets on. And then on top of it, you're the number 2 tight end. We're already giving all of the targets to George Kittle, right? So even the little bit that you get, we gotta have it from you, right? So it's almost like, and then I hate to put it to you, but your predecessor has made it hard on you. Ross Dwelly can catch. That's one thing that he does do. He catches the ball very well. So we're not used to seeing this kind of inconsistency with catching the ball at tight end. And again, one of the reasons why I believe it's never for him is that there are good tight end options in this year's draft. And Jaheim Bell out of Florida State is my guy. He's my draft gem. I love Jaheim Bell. I think that he's a Debo clone, just bigger, stronger, runs. He's not faster, but he's bigger, he's stronger. He runs with a lot more intent, has greater hands. He has way better hands than Debo. And I think that that's a sneaky good H-back, somebody that we can get in here. And that's better than Cam Latu now. Getting out of bed, this kid is better than Cam Latu. So I'd say never.
Yeah, I mean, Latu, I mean, I've been saying this for, the last year basically, which is that I think he just mentally got overwhelmed by everything that the Niners asked the tight end to do, and that his hands are not as bad as they looked last summer. He just was thinking too much, and we'll see come this year. But if I had to judge it right now or never, I'd say never. I'd go into this draft saying, yeah, we need that tight end because I don't know if I can depend on Cam. He's athletic, but he's not a burner. He's got good size, but not great size. He's got, he's got good athleticism, but not like, oh my God, you got to see this guy. So I don't see like super, super special there. And he couldn't catch anything last year. And it didn't, I don't want to say it didn't bother him, but it just seemed like he seemed very young. So I would say never. All right, Jordan Mason. Now or never for Jordan Mason, who we all think has talent. I mean, we've all seen it. So it's kind of like
I think it's unfair to even say now for him because it's not even like he has anything to do with it. What is keeping Jordan Mason off the field outside of him literally just putting him in the game?
The running back coach, maybe the running back coach.
I don't know what's keeping him off the field, man. I'm at a loss. I don't even think it's fair to put him in there, right? Because it's not a talent issue, right? Maybe because
he's the one guy that I fear going somewhere else and lighting it up.
Me too. Like he's had some issues protecting the ball, but it would be disingenuous for me to talk about it as if it's a real characteristic of his. I can't say now because now would mean that he needs to show something that he hasn't shown before in order for him to get on the field. And I just don't think he's in that criteria. I think that Jordan Mason If you just simply put him on the field, he'll run the ball. I maybe his pass blocking may be something where he's not a complete back, right? But you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. You ain't got to pass block when you're running the ball. Just give him the ball. You don't got to worry about that.
I'll
So
tell
I
you
don't know
what
why he
I'm
doesn't get on the
thinking.
field, Larry.
What I'm thinking, I know, people will clip and throw back in my face, but I'll say it anyway. The best thing that could happen to the 49ers would be like a week 2, 3-week injury for CMC. An injury that takes him out for 2-3 weeks. Nothing serious. Whatever a 2-3 week injury is. He's got a thigh contusion. He's got a elbow, whatever. He's got a this or that.
This
Something.
show is Larry. This show is on a delay. So we know that the chat hears us literally 30 seconds after we say it. And I'm waiting for the chat to explode once they hear what you just
Larry,
said.
you've lost it. No, but I mean, think about it this way.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him. I'm like, this is on a delay. I'm just waiting for them to start going in on your ass for that take.
Well, here's the thing. We all know CMC, but if you get to the finish line and CMC is not 100%, then he's not really CMC. He's a shadow of what he was. It's like Dre Greenlaw's awesome, but they didn't get to the finish line with a healthy Dre Greenlaw, did they? And CMC's awesome, and they didn't get to the finish line with a healthy CMC, and he was slightly less than awesome. All I'm saying is, you see it in baseball sometimes. Jerry Royce could not start the 1980 opener for the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. Mm-hmm. So they said, you know what? Who should we go to? Let's go to this portly lefty from that we have in our farm system. Yeah, Fernando Valenzuela. Let's go to Fernando Valenzuela. And then they went to Fernando Valenzuela. And Fernando Valenzuela was Fernando Valenzuela. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, now Fernando's in the rotation too. And they won the World Series that year. This is 1981. I'm just saying, I think Jordan Mason, is it now or never? You're right. You're absolutely right. It's neither, because it's like, it's not up to him. He's doing his job. It's up to the Niners to put him on the field. But once they do, and once they see what this kid really is in real NFL games, then his spot will be undeniable. Then you'll have to work him in for 5 to 7 carries a week. And to me, if you want to say what is the best scenario with the Niner running backs, it's that, that somehow Mason fulfills his potential and he gets into a game early in the year, and then he shows that, man, this guy can really do it. And then they carve out 5 to 7 carries for him every game. To me, that's the best scenario. Better than CMC and they win, and then CMC, by the time you get to the wild card game or the playoff games or whatever, has got 3 different maladies, and JP Mason is so raw because he hasn't played all year and he can't be trusted, and you just don't use him. You got to find a way to use your roster, the entire roster, especially at running back.
I agree. For me, it's really an approach more or less than it is what the player can do. We were the better team in the Super Bowl, but there were so many players that were on the sideline who didn't get a chance to prove that. And when you're at 3rd and 4, and you're going 5 wide, that's who our team is. Right? That's who our team is. 3rd and 4, 5 wide with the leading rusher in the NFL in the slot. And that's what Kyle is saying. Throw the ball to our running back. And Jordan Mason is on the sidelines during that play. Right? That's 2 down territory right there. And I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to make a dubious plot like you, where Christian McCaffrey has to go ahead and take a little bit of a siesta for 3 games. But I do understand the spirit of what you're trying to say, and that is that you've pretty much thrown away the possibility that we're going to use the entire backfield in situations of the game. And you basically resorted to the fact that the only way that Jordan Mason would get on the field would be an injury, right? So I I don't tend to disagree with that, but what I will say is that it holds our team back, that we don't put enough stress on defenses to have to deal with our entire backfield. And having Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason on the sidelines during one of the most important games of the year, and we can't run the ball when we need to, it leaves much to be desired. So that much I do see.
I'm putting up all the
Oh, I see you, dude. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. It's soon. Hold on, Terradome just got here. Terradome, go back 15 minutes so you can put in your chats too. Go back, Terradome. You missed a lot.
Here we go. This one. Hey, somebody agrees with me. Larry's on point. CMC wasn't enough. He wasn't enough against the Chiefs, Ravens, or Eagles. No, I'm just saying it doesn't have to be an injury. How about tax evasion? I don't know. I mean, maybe he's got a sick relative. I don't know, but I want to see Jordan Mason at some fucking point. I mean, seriously, give Mason the goddamn ball. I mean, seriously, let's find out what this kid is or is not, and let's just not have him scooting through the locker room on a scooter. I want to see this guy out running between the tackles, play him at fullback, flex out. I mean, supposedly the greatness of McCaffrey is that he's like Debo and you can flex him out. Then fucking flex him out. And let's see Jordan Mason. I mean, what the hell?
Talk your shit, Larry.
How long are we going to... he's multifaceted, but we can't see the multifacets.
Mm-hmm. Facets, motherfucker.
We got this guy in the chat. It says Larry lost to stats. No, Larry did not lose to stats. Larry beat stats. Larry put stats away in his own contest. No, I'm just joking. Stats probably looked at it and said, I can't beat somebody who's got way more followers than me. If this contest is going to be legit, even though I got more votes than Larry, I'm moving Larry on. So I think I'm going against Barrows, and I expect Barrows to probably beat me, but who knows? Dusty Gold. Larry has had too much coffee? Possibly. Terry Byrne. Larry just became Mason's agent? No, but come on.
Hey, Larry, on, man. What are you, Larry? Are you Jordan Mason's father? Huh? Why do you like him so much? Are you his father?
Yeah. I'm his agent. I'm his next door neighbor. In fact, coming on in here, Jordan, come on in. Whatever. No, I believe in this kid. You do too. And many, 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 many Niner fans do too. And we've been told how special he is, and we don't get a chance to see him. And so I would say it is absolutely now for Jordan Mason, and I'm going to demand it be now. I mean, I think that the Niners, if you really wanted to say, okay, let's talk about this for 30 seconds, Coach. What is getting Brock Purdy's not as good as Mahomes? Can we all agree that Brock Purdy is not Mahomes? Mm-hmm. So if the Niners are going to fucking beat the Chiefs and win the Super Bowl, guess what they're going to need? They're going to need an overwhelming run game that the other team cannot stop, and they need Brock Purdy just to make 5, 6, 7 throws a game, and he'll make them. Mm-hmm. That's how they're going to beat the Chiefs. That's how they're going to beat the Ravens. That's how they're going to climb to the top. They're not going to climb to the top by being some, the better version of Kansas City. No, you're going to have to run the hell out of the football. So that should be the game plan. Run the hell out of the football. So what does that mean in the draft? That means draft a bevy of offensive linemen that you think are difference makers. Move out Brendel and Feliciano and McKivitz over time. Put those guys in the lineup. Get another runner to go with the runners you got, and diversify and run some more, and really be the dominant running attack in the sport. I think that's how you win the Super Bowl. The Niner defense is no longer the 19 defense. They're not that special. It's not that good of a D. Are they good? Yeah, they're pretty good. Are they great? No, they're not great. It's not an all-time defense. It's Nick Bosa and this and that. Screw that. It's not an all-time defense. Not. Say that over and over to yourselves. You don't have an all-time defense. So what do you need to do? You need to play complementary football, protect your defense, and run the shit out of the ball. And
get an O-line.
And get an O-line and get another runner. A couple people have put in here, Larry's a big fan of Blake Corum. I am. I absolutely am. If I could find a way to go Zach Frazier in round 1, maybe a Michael Hall or a Rukaroro round 2. So now I've got an O lineman, I got a D lineman. Then I would try to go Blake Corum. Is his name Blake Corum? Blake Corum in round 3. And then I'm going back to the offensive line for a guard and a tackle. And I'm coming out of this draft with 3 really good linemen that can make me sit down the right side of my offensive line and another really good running back so that you're just covered, that you just have a bevy of awesome backs. And I'll take my chances. I'll fill up the defense with the rest of the draft on day 3. But I'm going with what I'm going with. I think the Niners need to get a better O-line and more running backs and diversify their attack and attack on the ground.
I love the way you're talking, Larry. I love the way you're talking.
I mean, that's
I'm going to tell you right now. I understand you feel that way, but the truth is that you got to follow the money. And I was just having this conversation today, and I came to the realization that the Niners are not going to draft a tackle in the first round.
No, they're not.
They're not.
And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Unless your guy, unless J.C. Latham falls in their lap, they should not take a tackle.
Right. And the only reason why they should sign a tackle in the first round is if they're signing Trent Williams' replacement. That's the only thing fiscally that makes sense for them to get an offensive line, for them to get an offensive lineman in the mid-first round if they trade up to replace Trent Williams, because that means that they're going to take on the designation of the 5th-year option. They're going to be able to pay this guy good money, and then they'll be able to keep the same fiscal track of what they've done with the rest of their line, basically crescendoing it down by age and talent. Now, for me, I still believe, even if they go into this season with the offensive line that they have, there's still way more value in this year's draft for them to be able to replenish the entire depth of the offensive line and actually have some potential starters in there. You can get a Rosengarten in round 3, and he can sit behind Colton McKivitz or even be at guard, right? There's ways that you can get requisite talent to come into this team where not only do we need to run the ball, which you've talked about, which is more complimentary, but we need to protect our investment, which is now our franchise quarterback in Brock Purdy. So now it's the rubber's meeting the road on how we're building our team, especially offensively, because it can't be all about what Kyle wants to see best to get the best looks with the plays that he runs. It's about equity, and it's about protecting what we have down the road. And nobody's going to care about what plays are being ran if we can't keep our quarterback upright, or we have Christian McCaffrey who's dwindling with his prime, and we're not using an entire backfield that can play now. We saw what Elijah Mitchell did in week 17 against the Commanders. We've been dying to see more and more of Jordan Mason. And I feel like Kyle just needs to be a little bit more inclusive with his running game, because it does slow down the team. It does take the tempo off of a team. That defense, we basically went hand in glove. We went exactly into what they wanted to do. Okay, we didn't make those linebackers come into that box and tackle. We didn't bring those fast safeties and those fast corners, McDuffie and Snead. They should have been tackling all game, not running around chasing Debo and Brandon Aiyuk. That's how you put stress on a defense, when you pull them into the deep water and the things that they don't want to do. It's body shots versus missed power shots. Body shots is what will beat the Chiefs, not swinging for the fences.
Amen. If on 3rd and 4, if they had this, I agree with Whale and Wasp. He says get Frazier, Haynes, the guard from Connecticut, and Greenfield, the tackle from North Dakota State or South Dakota State, I believe. Yeah, South Dakota State. I agree. I might take Haynes out and put in Mason McCormick, who I also like from South Dakota State. But in my mind, if you got Frazier, McCormick, and Greenfield and Blake Corum, then you get into a 3rd and 4 situation against the Chiefs with the Super Bowl on the line. You run the goddamn ball on 3rd and 4, and you get into 4th and 1, and then you push, or you run it again behind your big, physical, dominant offensive line with a back like a Corum or a McCaffrey, anybody. But I mean, at this point, we have to be this passing outfit. No, run the ball. Run the damn ball. Build up your line and run the ball.
If you think Brock is explosive now, give Brock a dominant run game. Give Brock, and it's not the sum, okay? If you want to just look at yards, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the style of running the ball and when you run the ball. Running the ball at will is a different position from having a guy that can run a certain play at will, okay? Running the ball at will means that at 3rd and 4, we're getting in the fucking eye with the highest paid fullback in the league, and we're putting it in Christian McCaffrey's gut twice. And you know we're running it. That's running the ball at will. We can't do that. And that's an element of our team that we need to start growing.
The Niners run the ball as like a little, we'll fool you here, a little offshoot there.
We're going to outrun you, beat you to the point of attack, but they're not really running at nobody.
I want the goddamn PA announcer to be like, the 49ers will now be running the football, and then still run it.
And still run the ball.
Exactly. And have success. And that's what the Eagles have had, the ability to do. And that's what the Niners really badly need. And let's be totally honest about this. Niners had 2 MVP candidates this year, Brock Purdy and CMC. Without Brock Purdy, they're going to lose. They were going to lose this year with Sam Darnold. They're going to lose next year with Josh Dobbs. Without CMC, they're going to lose. It doesn't matter if they have Elijah Mitchell or JP Mason, especially if those guys have no rhythm because they never touch the ball all year. But they need a big-time second back like a Blake Corum, and they need a big-time offensive line, and they need to run the ball. They need to run the ball, and they need to protect their pretty good but not awesome defense. Let's just call it what it is. It's a pretty good but not awesome defense. Let's not delude ourselves into thinking that this is, one of the great defenses in the NFL. It's not. It is not. Come on. What do you got? What do you honestly have on the defensive side right now? You have Nick Bosa, who I love. Hargrave was hugely disappointing. Malik Collins, if he was so awesome, why did Houston let him go? Jordan Elliott, if he was so awesome, why did Cleveland let him go? Leonard Floyd is I really like Leonard Floyd. I think he's an upgrade. So you got 2 really good edge rushers and some questions in the middle. On the second level, you have Dre Greenlaw done for the year. And so what do you got? You got Fred Warner and Devondre Campbell. And if you're literally one Fred Warner injury away from going with like Demetrius Flanagan Fowles and Devondre Campbell, that's not awesome. And then in the secondary, Hafanga's coming off an ACL. Brown is a second-year player. Ambry Thomas is a question mark. So you got 2 pretty good corners in Ward and Lenore, and then a bunch of question marks. So this is not an awesome defense. This is a pretty good defense. And I guess that could be the argument for why they need to draft some more defensive players. And Todd says, Tobin says, don't agree with Larry. Elliott and Collins were sneaky good pickups. Time will tell. I agree, but that's,
but that's not what we lost.
Time will tell is not necessarily the strongest statement about, how good your defense is.
Facts. I agree with you, Larry. I mean, really, what we're in a wait and see mode with the defense. We got to see exactly how these guys are going to play, and we got to see exactly how they're going to play with each other. We already know that players look different when they're not playing against the regular guys who they were used to seeing week in and week out, particularly Fred Warner. I'm very interested to see how Fred Warner is going to look next to a linebacker that doesn't clean up all of the trash like Dre Greenlaw. It's going to be interesting. I want to see what that defensive line is going to do to be able to stop the run. Jordan Elliott is a good piece added on to stop the run, but a pass rusher on the interior, he is not. And then with Malik Collins, you just go ahead and just inverse the worries with the strengths. He's a really good pass rusher on the interior, but we don't know what he's going to do against the run. Javon Hargraves has already given us what he is. I mean, I wish we could do a now or never on him. Never was, never should have happened. How about that? I do not like the fact that he's here on the team, and I feel like he's the, if there was somebody that should have had a pay cut this year, it should have been his ass. But we're moving on right along with Leonard Floyd coming in at defensive end for us, where we do not know what he's going to give us, but it's a good pickup because of the consistency involved. Huff is coming off of an injury. Jair Brown has had spotty play, and we don't know who our other corner is, sans Mooney Ward and Diamador Lenore, right? And then we have our look at the depth of what we're going to do with Yator and these other guys coming in. What is Drake Jackson going to finally be coming off of another injury that sidelined him for the year? So there's questions. There's a lot of questions on top of the fact that all of this is being led in a coach who Kyle said that was ready last year, but he's more than ready this year in Nick Sorensen. So I don't know if you're going to snatch Nick Sorensen out the booth and fire him after the season, but right now, the strength of this team has always been defense. When we lose, when there are issues on this team, we start with what the defense did, even to the chagrin of averaging 17 points and 3 losses in the middle of the season. And the offense didn't get talked about at all. Mum was the word. Nobody had anything to say about the production of the offense when the defense was struggling in those 3 losses. So right now, if we're a defensive team, we got our work cut out for us as far as the success of this season is concerned, because we have question marks.
And it's not like the sky's falling. I mean, I'm looking at draft boards where, players that are listed after pick number 150 that are really good players. Defensive end, Muhammad Kamara, Colorado State. He's a mid-round guy. Jalen Harrell, the edge rusher from Michigan, he's a mid-round guy. Austin Booker from Kansas. I'm just looking at edge rushers. He's a mid-round guy. Javon Solomon from Troy, badass, total badass. He's a day 3 guy, and that's just at defensive end off the edge. But at inside backer, there's good day 3 guys as well. I mean, Darius Muasau from UCLA is listed at pick number 236. Nathaniel Watson from Mississippi State, SEC Defensive Player of the Year this year. 6'2", 230 linebacker, listed at pick number 204. Tyrese Knight from UTEP, love him. He's listed at pick 187. And there's other guys. I mean, there's guys further down the board. I love the outside backer from Florida State, Kalen DeLoach, who's only about 215 pounds, but I mean, he is just awesome. They list him at pick 518. He's probably going to go undrafted. I mean, that's an amazing undrafted player.
And then again, this is what I'm talking about as far as like the fans, like Dumpster Fire Dan says, we literally are the best running team in the league. He put that in the chat, and it's like, again, you're missing the plot, baby. We're not talking about the numbers. We're not talking about running up and down the field on Sisters of the Poor. We're talking about, if we are the best running team in the league, then why don't we lean on it in the most important parts of the game? When you're the best at something, you should be able to do it at will, on call. That's the mark of being a professional. To be able to do it through rain, sleet, or snow, the availability has to be at 100%. And if we're going 5 wide at 3rd and season, when it's 2 down territory, that's to let you know that we do not run the ball at will. It's smokes and mirrors, man.
Yeah, they just need to run it with greater diversity and more than one guy. I mean, if you lose McCaffrey, you're cooked.
Yeah.
And they run McCaffrey, they give him 400 touches a year. So there you go. All right, back to, and we got into this long debate because we're going in our it's now or never for these Niners. I got a few more now or nevers, and then we'll jump to a couple other topics. Robert Beal Jr., now or never?
Now. I think it's, and I think it's I don't know. He's another guy that I feel like, should he be in this criteria? maybe because of where our defensive line is, they need him now, right? But for where he got drafted, and honestly, you know why Arkansas loves Mississippi, right? Is because as long as as long as Mississippi exists, then they're not the shittiest state in America. So in some aspects, Drake Jackson is Robert Bill's Mississippi, right? So it's like, hey man, you can't get rid of me, and you drafted this guy over here, and he barely can get it done. So in a way, I feel like Drake Jackson is a more of a bigger conversation than Robert Bill. But in a way, I do feel like it's a little too soon for Robert Bill. I'd be looking to see what he can do this year. He did get some playing time this year, and he looked okay. But they drafted him as a project. Drake Jackson actually came in here with supposed upside. So it is what it is.
So you're saying now for Beal? I would agree. I think Beal's coming on. How about Drake?
Never.
Really?
We saw it. We've
See,
seen
that's
it.
my guy. I got to believe in Drake.
I'm over it. I mean, one of the biggest things
Why can't he get it done?
Well, I can't be disingenuous. He did have a very rocky college career. He switched positions multiple times from being a 3-4 DN to a 4-3 to a 4-3 DN. He stood up and was at linebacker sometimes, and they really bastardized his skill set at USC because he does have a lot of upside. He does have a lot of flexibility and speed and twitch at his size. He's remarkable. He has remarkable change of direction, but just some of the things that Drake has had to tack onto his skill set while he's been in the league, they leave a little bit much to be desired. He's not a naturally strong player. And playing offensive line, I'm not talking about weight room strong, but core strength, hand strength, being able to just move a body with your body. And Drake struggles with men who have strength. And in my opinion, once he gets out in the open field, if you get him chasing, if he's out there trying to run down the line and not get sucked in, pause on a boot from quarterbacks, he could change directions in open field. He does all of that stuff great. But I'm saying never in the guys that I want the strongest unit of our team to be the most scrutinized unit of our team. And if Drake Jackson was a linebacker with his production, if Drake Jackson was a corner with his production, I might say now, right? Because these are positions where we have better guys at the position, and we actually can, have room for him to mature and kind of ease into where we need him. But we got to have some type of tip of the spear, and it's the D line. And because of that, you can't be here for this long and still be trying to be a contributor, not a starter, but just a contributor. I'd say never. Reluctantly, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a hard time on this one because I like the guy, and I do believe in the talent. I just think that he hasn't been strong enough. And then he's had injuries. So, this year, instead of kind of the bulk strength, I'd like to see a little bit more of a ripped, this guy's got light body weight and great muscle mass for the body weight. He seems to always be a little pumped up as far as the first year he looked too small. The second year he looked a little pumped up, but not really ripped.
Yeah, water weight. Like bloated.
This year I need to see him, pound for pound, strong, technique sound, and just absolutely winning consistently. And I think it's in there. So I'm going to say now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say now for Drake.
And I see that. I don't disagree with that. I feel like that's a toss up.
Kalia Davis, now or never?
Never.
Yeah, I kind of think never.
Same reasons. I mean, if you just take the conversation that we have with Drake Jackson and add a year to it and then have the same conversation, that's how I feel about Kalia Davis now. He's been here longer. And as a matter of fact, he came in off of an injury. We gave him the time to get better, but at the same time, and I hate to say it this way, but why Kalia Davis was mending his injuries, Javon Kinlaw had multiple injuries and still found his way to the field. And actually gave us production. It was a good idea, but the reason why good teams stay good teams is because they cut the fat. And at this stage, I don't see him as as a consistent contributor with an upside. Right? We've at one point, Kalia Davis getting on the field was okay. Let's see what he can do. Now he's been here long enough where it's all right. Let's see what he's supposed to do, and we just haven't bridged that gap, in my opinion. So I'd say never.
Jesse's in the stream. What's up, Jesse? He says third string. He was talking to third string who had a comment earlier. He said those were Armstead created sacks in week 1. Jackson just cleaned up.
Yeah, the 3 early.
Jesse says Drake decided to get all of his sacks week 1. Must have been an incentive he hit. I just think he was fresh, he was healthy, and he was active. And you're right. I think Jesse's right. He kind of ran into a couple sacks in that week 1 game. All right, couple more guys. Jalen Graham, now or never?
Now.
Yeah, I like Jalen Graham. I'm not even down on Jalen Graham at all. I just think they redshirted him a year because he's a young guy. I think he's not only going to be a now player, but I think he's going to be a damn good now player.
I like him. I like his body. He moves fast. He moves with intent. Honestly, somebody who's really sold me on him was Jesse. Jesse got a chance to see him face to face on couple of weeks throughout training camp last year. I think that also another unheralded group on our team is our linebackers room. I think we've kind of had an embarrassment of riches there. It's important for us to keep that track going with getting homegrown guys that we can develop over time, and then they can get on the field and actually know how to play our style of defense, especially with great mentors and examples like Dre and Fred. So I think as far as linebacker is concerned, we've kind of created like a little bit of a pipeline, if you will, with having good linebackers come through our enclave, especially from a grassroots perspective. So I think that Graham is now. I think that he'll actually find a way to be a contributor, not only on defense, but in special teams. And really, we can't depend on Dre forever, right? Jalen Graham is going to be able to come in here and be able to show exactly what life looks like after Fred. As at one point, we're going to have that conversation. So I like him for our team. Looks good getting off the bus, and he's a great special teams contributor. I'd say now.
I'll put my name to Graham right now. If Graham's no good, then I'm not. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, because to me that guy is absolutely,
it's just
for sure a really good player. And here's the question I would have: Are D Winters and Jalen Graham good enough that you can put linebacker way, way, way down the list on draft weekend? Or do you still want to see them go for a linebacker, if the right guy's there somewhere on day 2?
Well, I'm a little worried about linebacker just because we're not stable there. Dre's hurt, right? And with Dre being hurt, we're still kind of hovering around. We're still kind of hovering around exactly what we're going to do at that position. I mean, I know we signed on Devondre Campbell. I'm
not a huge fan of his.
And I don't bring it up a lot because I saw the way John talked about Devondre Campbell, and it seemed to be he was putting on a little bit. He didn't really touch on the things that we have. I know he's got better things to do, but he should at least have somebody letting him know that we our takes on these guys. We're going to go check these guys. We're going to go talk to our other friends that are fans and other content creators to get the real skivvy on these guys. And we're going to use our own knowledge of what we got, what we know. And everybody who is dealing with football understood immediately that Devondre Campbell was a reach. He was good in 2021, all pro level player, pretty much the best linebacker that Green Bay has seen over there since maybe AJ Hawk. And he fell off a cliff. Injuries galore and could not stay healthy, ergo consistency. Now he says that he was used incorrectly, but that's coincidental coming from the horse's mouth of the guy who actually didn't have the production. I do not know what we're going to do in the stead of Dre Greenlaw. I did hear John mention during the owners' meetings that he was going to put that Dre seems to be all in for week 1, if you will, and that there was a possibility, I believe it was John or Kyle, but there was a possibility that they were going to put him on the PUP list to be able to see what we can get out of him mid-season or probably within the first quarter, right outside of it in week 6. I don't know um, what linebacker can do for us early in the draft because we would have to play him right away. And then we may be a little bit too top heavy there. So really, I kind of feel like your question is in a what are we going to do, but what are we going to happen when it happens? I feel like they have no choice but to see what they get out of Jalen Graham and D Winters. Because I don't think that DeAndre, the kid out of the Packers, he's not going to hold up for long.
No, I
Devontae
mean,
Campbell.
we'll see. I don't. I'm not a believer that much. I love Jalen Graham. I think he's really, really good. But I will say this, and Whale and Wasp here says if Gray from Carolina is there in round 2 or round 3, let's get him. I think that linebacker that he's talking about from
CJ Gray,
North Carolina
Carolina. Yep.
is one of Cedric Gray. He's one of the most sure thing players is in this entire draft. I mean, this guy's 6'2", 235, makes plays all over the field. Just lives to tackle. This guy is in the class of Dre Greenlaw. He's in the class of Fred Warner. He is a great linebacker. Now, Draft Tech has him listed here at 93. Man, if he's on the board around 90, I am making all kinds of phone calls and I'm trying to get up. But I may even consider him at the end of round 2. I just think if you can get a Pro Bowl linebacker, you just take him and you don't even think about it. But Invader 49ers says Gray is no Greenlaw. We'll see. Gray, Greenlaw is 250. You got to remember that. And ran in the 4.5s or 4.6s. Gray's more like 235.
And you also got to understand that there was a time, and I'm old enough to remember this, but there was a time where when Dre Greenlaw got hurt, Aziz played in his stead. I believe that was 2020. Yeah. Aziz played in his full stead. And there was a full conversation across Niners, across the faithful, on whether or not we should keep Aziz or let Dre Greenlaw go. So the final product of what we see in Dre Greenlaw is maturation over time, right? He grew into the player that he was. Now, he showed pop and instincts and who he was right away once he got on the field in 2019. But Dre is a finished product, and you grow into being 250 and being able to move like that on the field. So getting Cedric Gray for what he's showing at linebacker right now, he is kind of a can't miss guy. And if he was there and the Niners didn't feel as though that Jalen Graham or D Winters were a viable option, along with the addition of Devondre Campbell, I'd pull the trigger.
All right, maybe the most important now or nevers are in the secondary. Sam Womack, now or never?
Never.
I like him. I'm going to say
I
now.
do too. But
we got
Isaac
last year, but something happened. He
fell off a cliff last year, didn't he?
He looked great in camp. I mean, this guy looked as good in camp as Demo Lenore.
What happened?
I don't know. It was weird. It was like every time I asked Wilkes about him, he was like, it just felt like the kid was banished. And he had this defeated look on his face in the last month of the season, like there ain't no chance in hell I'm getting out there. I don't know. I mean, he almost had 2 pick sixes the year before.
I saw that. And what's crazy is that the reason why I say never is because Darrell Luter Jr. is coming. We just picked up Isaac Yadam, the emergence of Diamador Lenore. I just don't see. And then you still got Ambry. Him and Ambry seem like they're just fighting for the worst corner on for the San Francisco 49ers. Like, I don't see it. And then you already know that they're going to make some moves in the draft. If they don't get somebody late, they're definitely going to get somebody for undrafted. And then also you got to look at it this way. I really believe that Sam Womack may get caught up in the wash because Demo and Mooney are going to be unrestricted next year, unrestricted free agents. So they may be making room to get solidified there and stop playing around with that position anyway. He's had his chances. I like Womack better than Ambry, honestly, but I'd say never.
Yeah. I mean, it's, at this point, all these answers are fair. I would say now, but we'll see. How about Ambry? He's in that now or never.
Never. It's time. I'm ready to clean house with just these lovable losers, like these guys that we've had where it's like, you know what? We know them. We drafted them. We have all of this, we have all of this sentimental value towards them, but they're really hanging on because we're waiting on them to come on and give us some type of addition or contribution to the team. But the facts are, is the reason why we only feel that way is because the top of our team is so good. So we feel as though that there's room for them to reach it. But the reason why the top is there is because they showed value immediately, right? We didn't have to wait on Fred Warner. We knew what he was. We didn't have to wait on Dre. We knew what he was, right? These are guys where they get on the field and you don't got to wait 2-3 years to see what these guys can really do. You understand the level of a player that gives you something when you see him. Even with the 4 games that Trey Lance gave us, all throughout practice, the years that he was here, you know that football is football is football. If this kid was showing consistency across the board, there'd be a small contingency in there rumbling about him. So I don't feel that way about all of the fringe guys that we've talked about. Every time we hear about these guys, even their coaches, Coach Kasarik tries to be as pragmatic but fair as possible. But listen to what Coach Kasarik said about Drake Greenlaw over the offseason, about the younger guys. He let him know, hey, it may be this year, it may be next year, but he's struggling. He's not necessarily where he needs to be. It's time for us to move on from these conversations. So these guys got to show real consistency. And I see Guam Rapata said, is Burford a lovable loser? No, he actually got on the field and showed consistency. These guys, you can't even trust them on the field. You can't even trust them on the field. So no, it's time to move on. And then also the squeaky wheel gets the oil. It's a new draft and there's a lot of corners coming up. So it's the pros, man.
My favorite is Max Melton, by the way, from Rutgers. Love Max Melton. He'd be so good. And day 3, my favorite day 3 corner is Willie Drew from Virginia State. Virginia State, kind of an underrated place there, and Willie Drew's a good corner. All right, last one, Darrell Luter Jr. Now or never for Darrell Luter Jr.
Now showed a lot of upside. More solid competitor, older, stronger bump and run guy, somebody that can actually play across inside and outside at nickel, at corner. Fought some injuries, but actually got on the field and showed some pop. He's still fast. Shows a lot of movement. That's one thing that I was worried about with his leg injury, to see if it would affect his speed. He could still move with the speed of the game, and is somebody who I just think that was coming on in camp. I believe there were reports about Darrell Luter Jr. coming on in camp and having good practices, but his injury just definitely sat him down for the whole year. And then once he got ready to play, he never really got it going. So I would say now for Darrell Luter Jr. That's mainly one of the reasons why I feel the way I do about Samuel Womack and Ambry Thomas.
Let's hit a couple supers and we'll switch topics. Jason Lutz jumps in here. He says, why can't Juwan Jennings play tight end 2 type role? Thoughts on Mason playing an all-stop type role? Gets him on the field. He's a bigger threat than Juice and adds power. I wouldn't mind seeing JJ in a tight end 2 role. I mean, I think there would be advantage JJ as far as speed. He's tough as heck. He can block. I mean, he can block for a receiver, but how much better blocker is Ross Dwelley than JJ? I mean, and Dwelley's not even on the team right now, but I like this idea of JJ as a flexed out second tight end. What do you think?
I don't like it. Flexed out as a move tight end, possibly, but I don't like it just simply because just on his blocking skill set and his physicality, he'd be a tell on the offense. Right now, Juwan Jennings is physical because he's going against, like-minded opponents as far as size is concerned and
strong safeties.
Yeah, strong safeties, outside linebackers, and he's being able to come from an angle, moving in space, and being able to really be able to develop a blow at the point of attack. When you start playing around on the offensive line or on that line of scrimmage, you really got to show strength from zero. That's literally, you got to show strength empowered from the first step of you coming out of your stance. That's a whole different ball game. You got to put on weight to be able to hold that type of center gravity on that low, from that low to the ground. I think he would get moved. So I don't know. I just don't think, do you put it like this? Tackles, guards, everybody on the offensive line. What's the hardest block for anybody on the offensive line? Anybody on the line of scrimmage, what do you say is the hardest block to do? Reach?
Oh, you talking about like a what? I mean,
Yeah,
what
like
do
you're a
you?
tackle, guard, center, or tight end. You got a scoop block, you got a crash, you got a trap. What would be your hardest block? Probably a reach, correct? Getting
Well, the
across the face
reach
of a
or the
defender on the
trap
same
against a
side as them.
super quick, the trap against a super quick defender. Because
Mhm.
defensive players are typically quicker than the offensive players,
Or
and
reaching
you
a
have very
defender to play
little.
side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anything where you're going to have to reach back on the backside for anybody is going to be a challenge. But I would say it's the trap block against a really quick interior player because that's like
Right.
how you going to be. You're suddenly going to become faster than Aaron Donald on a
Exactly.
trap block. I mean, it's that's why
So
those
you
things get blown up a lot.
So do you see Jawan Jennings coming backside down on a trap, blowing up an interior defensive lineman?
No, but I do like the look of putting more speed on the field in a for half dozen plays a game and making your the opposing defense defend speed across the board. Where maybe you have two running backs and no fullback. Maybe you have a wide receiver playing a tight end spot where you have a speed advantage. Not down after down, but a couple, 4, 5, 6 times a game, where you can surprise the defense with extra speed. I like that concept, if they can go with it. We got this one with from Alien Dijin.
That was
Leave
from your comment.
CMC alone. Okay, all right. I hear you. Smack Jones says, "You boys hell preaching the truth,
Y'all boys
y'all
hell
boys." There you
preaching the
go.
truth. I hear you.
Thank you, Smack. Richie says, we will never be that power running team. It doesn't give Kyle the clout that he is seeking as an amazing game designer and play caller. I'm not saying it has to define you. I'm just saying it could be something that you do. Run a K. To me, a a higher run pass split would be in order going forward. More complementary football and a greater diversification of your run game that incorporates a little bit more power. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't be a outside zone. I'm just saying mix in some power, mix in some diversity, and run the ball more, a higher percentage of your plays, and stop acting like you've got a great defense that can shut anybody down at any point when in reality you don't. You have a pretty good defense. What I want to see is I want to see 2 or 3 new offensive linemen who all are really dominant at the point, and then run the ball, and maybe a second runner who's legit, who like other teams really, really fear. Elijah Mitchell's nice, but he's more of a change of pace. Mason I like, but for whatever reason, it's not happening. If you can get a Blake Corum in this draft, I would get a Blake Corum in this draft. Why? Because I see Emmett Smith. I see an awesome player. I see a player who's going to be, one of the NFL's better running backs in the next 5, 6 years. And that's why I want Corum, even though they don't on paper seem to need him. All right. Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, says the Niners and Aiyuk are not close on a deal.
Mm,
This is an article out there. Aiyuk went on Nightcap, the podcast the other night,
I
and he
watched
was
it.
asked about where he ranks with the league's wideouts. And I loved his answer. He says, I'm worried about championships right now. Championships, championships, championships. I ain't trying to get into who's number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And I love that. There's a rumor out there that the Chiefs want to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. And there were some people in the chat early on that saying that Brett Veach, wants to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. To me, this would be equally bad to trading Charles Haley to the Cowboys. You don't give the Chiefs would have been on a totally different level than they actually were this year if they had had a Brandon Aiyuk. So now you're going to trade them Brandon Aiyuk? No, 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 no. No, I'd rather do anything else. Keep them, trade them. Just don't trade them to Kansas City. I mean, and don't trade them to Philadelphia. I mean, it's just simple as that. We know this guy can play. We know this guy has a ton of talent. Do not trade him to Kansas City. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
I feel the same exact way. We're gonna find out. The Niners always seem to fold to their big guys. So I really think that this conversation isn't about whether or not BA is uh gonna get paid. I think BA is virtue signaling towards, am I one of your guys or not? That's what I'm hearing. A lot of him saying, like, I don't want to talk about who's the best. I don't want to talk about, I don't want to get caught up in numbers. I don't want to get caught up in production. Everybody here knows what I'm about. You guys have told me that this is a championship organization with championship players. I have done that since the day I've got here, even when I'm in the building. I feel like there's a lot of him talking about kind of like, I do it the right way here. Like, there's a lot of guys who do what they want to do, but I do it the right way. Everybody knows that I toed the line, right? And in a way, you can kind of feel like that's what he's really trying to see what the Niners think about him in the form of dollars. Like, how are you going to take care of me? And he's really pushing like this worth element as if he's already expecting the Niners to play around with his worth. And truthfully, this is the best he's got. This is his response. Like, this is his weapon because he doesn't have any leverage, quite honestly. The Niners can trade him. The Niners can sit on him and just pay him the $14 million this year. And then next year, for good measure, they can even franchise him if they want to. So BA really doesn't have any leverage, quite honestly. And I feel like he's saying what any player would say is just talk about the truth as you see it. And that's what he's doing. If the Niners do move on from BA, like I said before, I really believe that it's because they could not get it done. Not because they didn't want to get it done, not because they couldn't get it done. I'm sorry. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I'm predicting the end game on this, because I mean, here's the thing. I think they're going to get it done. I'm not that concerned about the fact that they're far apart at this point. But the end game has to be discussed here. Are you going to have an end game where you have 60 or 70 million dollars tied up in 3 wide receivers and you're a team that likes to run it? I don't see that. So if you said to me, how's this all going down? I think the way this is going down is the Niners trade back from 31 probably to 40 and take an offensive interior player like Zach Frazier, or maybe a defensive interior player to start off. But I think they trade back, get an extra pick. With that extra pick, I think they draft Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. I think there was a big contingent of Niner people that went out there to watch. You're not going to Western, you're not sending a big contingent of people to Western Kentucky unless you really think that Malachi Corley is in the crosshairs. So I personally think that what we're going to see is Aiyuk probably re-signed. The Niners find a way to get an extra pick and draft Malachi Corley. And then maybe after June 1st or probably more likely next year, I could see the 49ers coming up with some trade for whatever they can get for Deebo Samuel.
For Deebo. Corley, thank you.
For Corley. We got to find, fulfills potential.
I love you, Lawrence. Is your real name Lawrence?
That is the name my mother gave me and always called me.
Lawrence, such a great and astute take. I love it. The elephant in the room is we're squeezing on BA because Deebo is overpaid. That's the elephant in the room. Okay. And
nobody can talk about it.
And nobody can really bring it up. And nobody can say that the real issue is that we really have no problem paying BA. Actually, the money that he thinks he deserves, that's exactly what he should get. But we can't, because we have this emotional guy who unfollowed us in the middle of his negotiations, and we had to put 20 on 10 to make this guy feel better about the situation. And on top of it, he's Kyle's pet. But the truth is that he's overpaid and he's underperformed. And what we can do for you, Brandon, is that if you would just hold tight, okay, and re-sign we'll get you your money on the back end. We got to move on from Debo, because when we look at it from Brandon is the last guy paid. Yes, he's the last guy that makes the room, the tab for the receiver room go over 60 million per. But the truth is that the real bad juju that relies in that room is Debo's money. We got to move on from that contract. He's overpaid, and he shouldn't even be making 28 million this year. That's the real money that needs to happen. And if they're smart, they'll do what they need to do to keep BA. And when they when they can do something with it, move on from Debo. That's what they should really do.
But at the same time, there's no advantage to moving Debo before June 1st this year. And really, there's no advantage to moving him after June 1st if you want Debo on the roster to compete. So there's, this is a complicated situation. I agree with what you said. I mean, Aiyuk is the receiver you want to go long-term with. Debo's the guy you want to get off of, but you can't get off of him right now in any kind of realistic way. You probably don't want to get off of him after June 1st because you're trying to win a championship, and it's all about that. And obviously he could help in that regard. So, but I think if they could find a way to get Corley, and especially with the new special teams rules, I think Corley could be an ideal fit for that. And then you have Debo at the end of the year.
Have you seen Jaheim Bell, Larry? Have you seen Jaheim Bell?
A little bit, not a lot though.
I like Jaheim Bell, man. You can't tell me that that's not Debo with. He's like it's like bigger Debo, but on purpose. Like, you know how Debo gets bigger, but it's because he's out of shape. He just put on weight. This kid actually is 230. All right, he's 6'3", 230. He's not Debo's speed. He's not a 4'4" guy. This kid has sure hands. He catches beautiful seam routes. A lot of the stuff that he catches is wheel routes in between the tackles. This kid can block. I'm telling you, bro, Jaheim Bell is somebody that if we picked him up, Debo will be all but non-existent on our team, to be honest with you.
He's got a lot of nice traits that I like. I mean, he's a multi-talented player. He's from Valdosta, Georgia, Valdosta High School. He's an honor roll student. He played both tight end and wide receiver. They also used him on defense. He did suffer an ACL in his high school career, but he helped his high school team reach the quarterfinals in both 2018 and 2019 in the state. That's pretty damn good. He also played basketball. He's considered the 17th best athlete in the country by Rivals when he was coming out, ranked as the 38th best player in the state of Georgia. So, yeah, there's a lot to like there for sure.
And you ain't got to pay him $28 million a year.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'll study. He was on the fall academic honor roll. I'll study Jaheim Bell and get back to you on that one. Okay, couple other thoughts here. The Niners signed Brock Wright. I don't know if you saw that. The tight end from.
Did they sign him? I thought that we signed. We offered, and then they countered. They matched.
Well, did they match? I mean, I didn't see that.
Matched.
Oh, did they? Was that on Twitter this morning?
Hold on, I was reading that. Let me
see if anybody knows. But the Niners on Friday, which was yesterday, made an offer to the Lions restricted free agent tight end Brock Wright, former Notre Dame player, signed him to a 3-year, $12 million offer sheet. Grant said that he thought that Lions would match. It had $6 million guaranteed, which is kind of a lot of guaranteed money for a backup tight end. Detroit tendered him with a 1-year, $2.985 million offer, and they now have 5 days to determine if they're going to match. If they don't, there's no compensation. It's not like the Niners owe the Lions any compensation. He's a 3-year pro. He started 19 games, 43 catches, 424 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, which is kind of a lot. He would be an upgrade over Charlie Warner. A lot of people are debating, is he a receiver? Is he a blocker? I know the Pro Football Focus numbers kind of indicate he's a blocker. My Notre Dame people tell me that he was an H-back and a fullback and a really nice underrated receiver. And so maybe he's a combo. Obviously Dwelly was their receiving tight end. Warner was their blocking tight end. Maybe they brought this kid in as, let's see what he has. Maybe he's a little bit of a combo of both. A better blocker than Dwelly, a better receiver than Warner. I don't know.
I will tell you this right now.
Wednesday is the deadline for Detroit to match if that to make that decision is Wednesday.
Well,
So
I like his skill set. I mean, he definitely is. He is a mix of the two. I don't know about his blocking skill set, but what I will tell you is that we do need to do something at tight end, a la Jaheim Bell. This is why I was having this conversation. I do feel like our tight end room is pretty much one of the most underutilized rooms on the offense. I mean, without it's George Kittle, and then everybody else is just basically a glorified blocker. Nobody really gets highlighted. And God forbid if we have a 2 tight end package. I haven't seen that in ages. That actually worked on a consistent basis for us offensively.
Well, they use the 2 tight ends with Warner quite a bit down the stretch as a blocking combo. But as far as actually dropping back to pass with 2 tight ends, it's almost totally unheard of, it seems like.
It doesn't happen. And we tried it with Jordan Reed back in 2020, and it just his body never held up. I'd like to see it. I think Kyle would be very creative with the 2 tight end set. And if Brock Wright is a guy that we can get in here and actually give us a shot in the arm immediately, this is somebody I'd love to pick up. I mean, the only reason why I'm talking about Jaheim Bell and other players is because we just haven't gotten any type of consistency or help from the tight end position outside of George Kittle as a pass catcher to be a real weapon. We just talked about Latu. What's the other kid? Jaden Willis.
Braden Willis.
Braden Willis. I mean, I barely know this kid's name. He was not somebody that is somebody that can actually block well. So if we
didn't play at all this year.
Yeah, if we can outsource it and actually get somebody in there that can give us an uptick at the position, do it. I like it.
You mentioned, obviously Brock Bowers is a blue chip guy, and he's going in the top 10 probably. Man, if he fell, I would trade up for him. Your Jaheim Bell is an interesting name. Theo Johnson from Penn State at 6'6", 260, the way he moves. That's an interesting name. Ben Sinnott from K-State is a really good tight end for sure. They've shown interest in guys like Tip Ryman from Illinois and Eric All from Iowa. I don't know if I like either of those guys that much. But further down the board, Isaac Rex, from BYU. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit older because he went on his Mormon mission, right? He's 6'6", 255. This guy led the all of college football with 12 touchdowns as a freshman. His dad was a former tight end. He's an interesting guy. I've contacted him. We may have him on the Krueger show. But he's the Niners have looked at him a couple times, I know. And so he's an intriguing name. I've thrown Mason Pline out there. He's a basketball player who started at Ferris State, transferred to Furman. He's 6'8". He's got 10.5 inch hands. He was a mechanical engineering major, so he's super, super smart. To me, he is a day 3 sleeper. I mean, they list him here at pick number 509. So a lot of people expect him to be undrafted. A couple other guys that I really, really like. Tanner McLaughlin from Arizona, 6'5", 245-pound tight end. Another guy, probably an undrafted free agent. And remember this name, Shelton Zion III. He plays for Vegas. And I love this kid's athleticism. I mean, this guy's got the ideal body for tight end. He's about 6'4", 250, crazy long arms, pretty good speed. Another undrafted free agent tight end to look for. Shelton Zion III. That's a pretty easy to remember name. All right, three quick ones before we jet. We're an hour and 23 minutes in. We're only going to go an hour and 30 or so.
Yo, Invader's hilarious.
What's that?
He said Larry's going into the cracks and crevices for tight end.
Yeah, seriously, I'm going deep. Eric Armstead said he was disrespected. They offered him $6 million. At first, everybody was like, come on, Eric, you weren't disrespected. Then we saw what they offered him, and we said, well, wait a second. That's a third of what he made. Yeah. Was Eric Armstead disrespected by the $6 million offer, or is that just life in the NFL of, you know what, we can't afford you at $10 million, so why would we offer you that? Let's just offer you something we know you can't take and get down the road. I mean, they went with Malik Collins and they went with Jordan Elliott. They couldn't afford to offer Eric $10 million. I understand why he feels disrespected. That is I mean, you're the best defensive line, best defensive tackle on your team. Your team goes to the Super Bowl. You're totally invaluable in a lot of ways. And yet you're making 18, 19 million. Now you're going to make 6. What do you think? Weigh in on Armstead.
He wasn't disrespected. He was shocked. There's a difference. There is no disrespect in business. You either can prove what you can do or you can't. In this market, you got to understand contracts are not for what you've done. They're for what you're going to do. What you've done has afforded you the opportunity to be at the negotiation table. That's business. So when you get a deal, it's not what they think of you, it's what they're forecasting in the future and what you're going to do. And for the money that Eric Armstead was paid, he was underplaying his contract. All right. On top of being a player that they chose to pick over another player in DeForest Buckner. So this conversation that Eric Armstead was having with Jed and John and Kyle wasn't a conversation that was new to them. It was a conversation that was new to him. They already know that they've been paying him money that he doesn't deserve. He was just the last person to find this out. So it wasn't disrespectful. Sometimes business can be jarring when you finally see the brass tacks of how things are doled out. But the truth is that Eric Armstead's play versus what we gave him, what he was doing then versus what he showed up until this point was reflective of $6 million moving forward. So there was no disrespect. There was just a little bit of shock on how far they've grown apart on understanding each other. If anything, him feeling disrespected is just showing the lack of awareness and how he was seen with the team versus how he sees himself. Now, you can say that all of this was put to rest with him going out to go bet on himself in the open market, but he went to go get money to go become an annual loser. The Jaguars aren't going anywhere, and they're not going to win anything. They're not a player away, and they're damn sure ain't an Eric Armstead away. So that's just the long and short of it, quite honestly.
You know, I think there's 3 statuses in the NFL. There's healthy, there's hurt, and there's chronically hurt. And when you're in that third category of chronically hurt, your value plummets. I don't care what position you play. If you're if everybody evaluating looks at you and goes chronically hurt player, your value in the future is speculative at best, and only a fool like Balky would jump. And sure enough, that's the way it shook out. I feel bad for Eric because I think he's a good dude, but that's just the way it is. All right, yeah. 2 last ones. If you could snap your fingers on draft day and give the Niners Rice's kid, Gore's kid, or McCaffrey's brother, who would you opt for there?
I'd say Gore's kid, but he's never going to play. McCaffrey's brother. I mean, Rice's kid is cool, but he ain't gonna play. He's got better upside, but I don't know. This is a weird question. So hold on, wait a minute. So do we just want the players just because how they would fit on the team, or we want the players because we think they would actually play?
Well, I mean, probably some combination thereof. I mean, I agree. Gore's kid is going to be like an insurance policy. Yeah, I actually think he's an NFL back. I think Rice's kid is an NFL receiver, but does he complement these receivers? No. I'd probably go with CMC's brother just because I feel like there's some real upside potential there, and he might be able to contribute maybe even as a rookie. So, and also knowing what CMC means to you and standing there next to him in the locker room when I asked him this question, how big would it be to play with your brother? And just the look on his face. I mean, how long he talked about it. I mean, I guarantee you, Coach, that he is called and visited with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan this offseason saying, is there a way we can do this? because he is. I mean, CMC is not just like interested in playing with his brother. He's like passionate about
Really?
playing with his brother. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't
He wants
believe
it
it.
that bad?
He wants it. He wants it. It's not like, and it's so, and it's also about where's he get picked, because if it's, I'll take him, but I'll take him on day 3. I'm not going to
Mhm.
take him on day 2. And if he goes on day 2, I'll just say, Christian, sorry, we couldn't get him.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's a day
But
3
you
guy.
went somewhere with somebody who wanted you,
Yeah.
you know?
I would say to Christian, if on day 3 he's a priority for us, on day 2, no. And just tell him the reality of it, and then
Yo,
it is
Jam
what it
18
is.
said none of them.
What's that?
Jam 18 said none of them.
Well, hey, there's that too. There's a lot of people that are like, hey, you know what? None of these guys are going to be any good. So there you go. All right, last topic. Colin Cowherd said that Brock Purdy's contract will turn the Niners into the Cowboys. Agree or disagree?
From what standpoint? The fact that we're
Well, that
top
they'll
10.
pay him 40 or 50 mil, whatever they're gonna, whatever the going rate is going to be for Brock Purdy, which is
Right.
going to be a lot. I mean, it's going to be many, many more million than he makes right now, right? So let's just say it's 45 million. That's $44 million more than what they paid him this year. And Cowherd's argument is that when Brock signs that contract, that $44 million of talent will come off the Niners roster to accommodate it, and that the Niners will essentially be the Cowboys. Good regular season team, but they'll always fall short. I think the Cowboys' problems are more than financial. So I don't agree with Cowherd. I think Dallas has other problems. I think whoever's going to make the picks for the Niners in this draft, whether it be Lynch or their college scouting director, they better freaking hit, because they need all the quality depth. They need as much talent as they can find, with Purdy being paid more money. They need to hit on day 3, like they did with Kittle, like they did with DJ Jones, like they did with Fonga, like they did with Purdy, like they did with Mostert and Jeff Wilson and these guys, Kevin Givens. They need to hit day 3 and after the draft because of the Purdy contract. But I don't believe they're going to turn into the Cowboys, because I think they're better coached than the Cowboys. And I think ultimately it's just the Cowboys
are a better organization. You can say it.
Yeah,
you can
it's
say
a better
it.
organization.
Thank you. It's a better organization.
Decision. Cowboys hit one, miss one, hit one, miss one, hit one, miss one. You know what I mean? I think the Niners hit at a higher rate. So I'll say I'll push back on Cowherd. I also don't like Cowherd very much. But what do you think?
His face is very punchable. I agree. I'm not a Cowherd fan, but I disagree. We're not the Cowboys. And trying to make a straw man argument just because we're about to double down on the franchise quarterback that we've selected doesn't mean that we are in fact the Cowboys. First of all, we can't be the Cowboys because we whoop their ass every time we play them. So that's one. Two,
Right.
we got a coaching staff that actually runs the team. It's not Pyongyang, North Korea, where our owner sits on high to make sure that certain players and certain guys get the ball or are handled or protected in the team a certain way. We're the farthest thing from the Dallas Cowboys. It was a little disingenuous to bring up. And I kind of feel like Colin kind of knows when he's saying things that are off kilter. So no, I don't agree. Us paying Brock, this is why this draft matters so much, to be honest, to link it back into things that actually matter. But that's why this draft matters so much, because, all right, cool, man. If you guys don't want to prioritize O-line because you feel as though that you can get the skill set at a lower clip, meaning in the draft or through free agency, and it doesn't have to be something that pigeonholes your team, cool. But you got to have the self-awareness to know that now would be like the perfect storm for you to get those linemen that you usually get in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Some of these linemen that you pick up as undrafted free agents, you can really turn some things around if you just focus on the position in round 3, 4, and 5, honestly.
And one last super, James Foster. I despise Grant, but Grant 1, Armstead 0. There you go.
Yeah.
Coach, what do you got cooking the rest of the day?
I gotta clean up a little bit. Got some boxes. I had a whole bunch of stuff come over here, getting some things set up. About to go to the range, so I'm gonna go to the range. I'm gonna take my crossbow to the range today, so I'm gonna take the bow to the range.
So
Sight some things.
you normally take the handgun, or what do you shotgun?
Yeah.
What do you?
I usually take a bevy of weapons that I have, but usually right now I'm just going to use this crossbow that I have right now. I haven't shot it in months, so I'm a little rusty. So we're gonna shoot from distance, shoot some moving targets, maybe take hand with me out, and that's gonna be our Saturday, man. Do some shooting.
Sounds good. I'm going to be watching some Giants baseball. D'Lo says, I told Larry Jung-Hoo Lee is legit, but he doesn't believe me. Let's just give it all a little bit of time. Let's give it a time. You know, I mean,
Do you
there's
think
all
he's
kinds
legit?
well, I mean, they paid him $113 million. They gave him $19 million a year.
Jung-Hoo Lee?
Yeah, Jung-Hoo Lee. So, I mean, he looks good. He looks good so far. But let's all pump the brakes and give it some time. Coach, good stuff. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Have a great Saturday, everybody. Peace. We're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you ask.